Hey buddy, you got a computer? You wanna have some fun on it? I wanted to do another video like having fun on the computer for free, but figured I could expand on this idea a bit to include games that you can buy. This way I'll also actually be productive in my personal life by tackling some games that have been collecting dust in my Steam account. There's probably gonna be some obscure shit in here that you haven't heard of. There's probably gonna be some shit that you know about already, but whatever. This is just gonna be a brief look at some games that I think deserve some attention. So yeah, this isn't about free indie games specifically like the last video was, as much as just games that happen to catch my attention. Maybe if this is fun enough, I'll make this a regular series on my channel or something. I don't know, maybe I'll be tired of this idea after doing it again, but I also think it sounds fun to do this shit once a year or something. Like an annual check-in video series where I just explore Steam and look at shit. No promises here. This channel will never have a schedule or plan behind it because I fucking improv every single facet of my life like a bumbling circus clown. But yeah, you ready to have fun on the fucking computer? Since the last having fun on the computer video ended with Studio Pixel and Cave Story, I thought it'd be fun if this one started out with Pixel again, sort of. I think most people know about Karo Blaster, but in case you weren't aware, it's the latest commercial release by Pixel, at least at the time of this video. It isn't exactly as big a game as Cave Story or anything, but it's a cute and fun little shooter. But the only reason I'm bringing up Karo Blaster here is because it's sort of sister games with Haru Tushura, the actual game I want to talk about for a tiny bit here. Haru Tushura and Karo Blaster were both created by Pixel and a woman named Kyoko Kawanaka, who releases games under this name. I'm assuming this is short for Miyako Publishing or Miyako Publications, but I'm just gonna refer to her as Miyako from now on. Karo Blaster was mostly Pixel's project, where Miyako contributed some ideas and assisted with level design and other stuff under the hood, and according to this interview, the cute little penguins driving this hand car in this section of the game were based on this doodle that she did. This shit is so fucking cute. Karo Blaster was made by these two, with Pixel in the driver's seat and Miyako in the passenger seat, but for Haru Tushura, these roles are reversed essentially. I first heard about this game right before it came out last summer, because people online were mistakenly under the impression that this was another Studio Pixel game, but reading up on it for 2 seconds made it clear who the actual creator was. This didn't stop a bunch of people from wrongly attributing the game to Pixel, which I'm sure was pretty annoying for Miyako to have to repeatedly explain to people, but yeah, this is her game. Pixel contributed to the programming and some of the animations, but this was directed by and is the passion project of Miyako. Put some fucking respect on her name, okay? Haru Tushura is an amazingly quaint little project. It's a 2D adventure game, really narratively focused, with you in the shoes of this guy named Chihiro. He's one of those silent protagonists, but he has thoughts to read about almost everything that you can interact with in this game, giving off the impression that he's a pretty introspective and thoughtful guy. They did this shit with Luigi in Luigi's Mansion. I really like this type of thing a lot. I love getting into the head of the character I'm playing as, by sprinkling in shit like this without it being in your face. Haru Tushura reminds me of old point-and-click adventure games and its simple interface and control scheme, and while the sprite art of the characters in the overworld isn't blowing my mind or anything, it's all really pleasant to look at, as well as the backgrounds and close-up portrait art looking really clean and nice. Good color theory everywhere and all that shit. I don't actually want to talk that much more about this game at all. I think it's really interesting and worth your time and money, so I'm just talking about it a little bit here at the start because I want to bring it some attention and I have a small audience now. If you want to try it out first for free, there's a demo available that lets you play the first third of it or so. Some stuff happens to our guy here and he goes to a weird world. It's not a terribly complex story, but it touches on some interesting themes and ideas, and it's the type of thing that'll stick in your head for a while. You'll think about it while you're riding your bike home from your job at Wendy's, while you're laying awake in your bed at night. Man, Haru Tushura is cool. I wish my dad loved me. I wish every hot woman in my life wasn't batshit fucking insane. It's a nice time, really good presentation and atmosphere, and it's worth your attention. You can play the game with the funny frog in it, and you should also play the game with the socially awkward guy in it. They're both cool games that wouldn't be what they are without this developer, God bless her. She also composed all of the soundtrack herself, and it's nice moody chiptune stuff that has a cinematic edge to it. Really accentuates the experience. She's got some more games under her belt, but I haven't tried them out yet. Maybe I'll get around to them later, but for now I really just want more people to play this game, so go do that. Go buy it on Steam. It costs barely anything, and Karo Blaster and Haru Tushura combined take up less space than one of those weird anime porn videos in your extremely obvious folder labeled research or work or whatever. Yeah, that's right. I've seen it. I've seen it all. You're weird. You specifically, Chris. I hope at least one of you out there is named Chris, so this freaks you out. Gish is a game that I have a very rich personal history with. My main experience with talking to people about this game is me going, yeah, I really enjoy Edmund Macmillan's first commercial game, Gish. I think it's super charming and fun and shit. And then whichever friend I'm talking to tells me I have horrible taste in video games and they call me gay, but I think this game is pretty overlooked in Macmillan's catalog. Edmund Macmillan is one of the first indie devs in the early 2010s to achieve internet micro-celebrity status, with a back-to-back combo of Super Meat Boy and his appearance in Indie Game the movie. He was also the only guy in that movie that wasn't a gigantic, pretentious loser, so back in the day I gravitated towards his work a lot more than Braid and Fez by Jonathan Suck and Phil Fuck. Braid is a game that I do actually like a lot. It has its faults, I think it's a bit up its own ass, but I boot it up every few years and play it and still enjoy my time with it. It's hard to shit on something that very clearly was made with a lot of passion and love for the medium. Even if John Blow is kind of an asshole loser, he'd also probably cry in a dark room alone if he knew that I liked Braid for the wrong reasons and that I think that it kind of sucks for the reasons that he thinks it's good, but Fez. I don't like Fez at all. I've tried playing it so many times, but I think it's just insanely boring and unfun to play. I really tried to get into it. I bought it the day that it came out, even though I already thought that Phil Fish was kind of a shithead, but I'd rather spend 2 hours at a tax office than ever play Fez again. But Super Meat Boy fucking kicks ass, holy shit. If you haven't played it, I definitely recommend it a lot, although I'd be genuinely shocked if somebody has made it this far into human history without hearing about or playing Super Meat Boy. But circling back around to what I was talking about a second ago, Edmund Macmillan was a breath of fresh air during an era of Western indie game development, where everyone was trying to make these artsy, pretentious indie games that are actually a lot more shallow than they let on, while also kind of feeling dog shit to play. Macmillan made games that were stupid and juvenile and crude, the opposite of what people consider high art to be, but they were fun to play and charming because of their rough, childish art styles and aesthetics. Not everything the guy has made has been an amazing game, but he's been a part of some seriously impressive and fun projects that have entertained me and many others for years. Macmillan is primarily an artist that also directs and helps design a lot of the games he works on, but he always works with very talented programmers that do a lot of the heavy lifting, just making sure I don't attribute everything to Macmillan. He's the soul of these games, but there are other people in the credits that deserve respect as well. Gish is probably my favorite out of these games, with a guy named Alex Austin, also known as Cryptic C, being the programmer for it. I bring up the programming specifically because the main draw of Gish is that it's a physics-based platformer, and if the physics weren't fun to play around with, and the game wouldn't be as notable to me, despite the appealing art and direction that Macmillan brings to the table. Macmillan is pretty well known for making cutesy shit with ugly, hideous, disgusting undertones, but Gish is pretty subtle, and the gross out stuff is toned down compared to a lot of his later titles. Gish kinda looks like an edgy Kirby character or something, like if Meta Knight was a SoundCloud rapper. The enemy characters look like they're from Invader Zim. This shit really resonated with me as a young teenager. The little guy is really appealing looking to me. It sounds stupid to say this about a character that's literally just a circle with a face, but this shit is really just peak character design to me. I like to think that Macmillan has a soft spot for the little guy as well. He shoves him into almost every game he makes in some form or another, and I'm always happy to see him. Here he is in Binding of Isaac. The game's story is pretty inconsequential and meaningless. Gish has to save his big titty goth girlfriend from a female incel, and he travels through a few worlds with varying themes. You start out in the sewers, make your way to a dark cave, go to hell, go to Egypt, go to heaven. Why is Egypt in between these two? Yeah, the three options for the afterlife. You go to heaven, you go to hell, or you go to Africa. A lot of staples of Edmund's games, the religious themes and the sexual themes, are flirted with here. They're not ever explored much, but this game is presented and experienced in a very simple way, with you just making your way through levels, beating bosses, and just having fun. So it's fine to me that the themes are just kind of there because Macmillan probably thought they were cool or funny or whatever. I thought it was funny back in the day that these weird blob monsters wearing gimp masks spawn little teeth monsters when they open their weird vagina wounds when I was a teenager, but this might not be everybody's cup of tea. I promise it's not gratuitous or anything, especially compared to something like the Bondage of Isaac, but the level design is generally pretty great. The physics are the main obstacle to get past a lot of the time, but it's enjoyable to make Gish bounce around and stick to walls and pick up blocks and snap enemies' necks and shit. If you haven't played this game and it looks interesting, maybe you never knew about it or something, I don't know, you should try it out. It's pretty cheap and I think it's a lot of fun. spent a considerably longer amount of time playing this game than the average person, I think. I'm not sure what this says about me and the shit I enjoy, but I really like this game a lot. It's a lot rougher around the edges than everything Macmillan was involved with afterwards, but I had so much fun replaying it to grab footage for this video. The music is fun as fuck too. All the songs were performed by the band Stratosphere and remixed or edited slightly by Game Audio Magic. God damn, that is the most vague name you could have possibly chosen. Hang the fuck on. Is that a saxophone? This sure gives me Persona vibes. I tried to find any information on Game Audio Magic, but their only credit to my knowledge is for Gish, and I can't find anything on Stratosphere online anymore either. They've been on hiatus for almost 13 years now. According to this tweet, Macmillan said that he picked their music for Gish because they sounded like Mr. Bungle, which, you know, fair enough. This shit rules though. It's fun, it's stupid, you'll enjoy your time with it. Fun game to play with a friend watching you and roasting you the entire time for the ridiculously stupid ways you'll die in it. 5 fucking stars. It's a classic to me. I'm sure the game means a lot to Macmillan too. This was his first big game project ever, and it ended up winning an award back in the day. This is forever tied to him proposing to his wife as well.
In the open category goes to Chronic Logic for Gish.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, I'd like to take the opportunity to propose to my girlfriend Danielle. Okay, I have to do it. Come on, guys, I have to actually say it. Danielle, will you marry me?
This fucking game is a part of his soul. It's essential to play if you love the guy's work. Gish was unfortunately just a bit too ahead of its time. There wasn't really anywhere to sell indie games back when it came out. So regardless of the acclaim and awards, they didn't make any money off of this shit. I think it's important to remember how far we've come as a whole for giving independent creators a platform. It's now easier than ever to make it, doing your own thing. And I think that's awesome. I could have made an entire video specifically for Gish if I was slightly more unhinged, but I think squeezing it into a video like this is better. What's fucking next in the script? All the people that are here because of the Paper Mario video are gonna be so confused at this shit. This isn't a Nintendo game retrospective, what the heck?
What the heck?
So I know what you're thinking, and stop it. That's disgusting. But no, really, this wouldn't be a fun on the computer video if I didn't include at least a couple of free games, so here's one that I want to talk about. The Desolate Hope is a fucking weird one. I stumbled upon it in the depths of the Steam store, and was immediately really interested in it because of its visual style. And then I noticed who developed it. Scott Cawthon. Where the fuck do I know that name from? Oh, God. Jesus Christ, it's the fucking Five Nights at Freddy's guy? Why does this look like an actual video game? What the fuck is this shit? So apparently he made this shit in 2012 and Five Nights at Freddy's was in 2014. God damn, he really scaled back on the ambition quite a bit, huh? Now I'm like 38 years old, so I've never played a Five Nights at Freddy's game, but from what I know about them, I can pretty confidently say that they're not really my cup of tea. And I know that there was some controversy about this Scott guy because he's a Republican that donated money to bitch McConnell, and that he said some shit about being a pro-life Christian or whatever. But all of that sounds pretty fucking lame and a waste of my time to get into, and it seems like the guy has retired from game development because some teenagers were mean to him online or something. But I don't really care about all this shit. I was interested in seeing what the fuck this weird ass game was, so I downloaded it and played it, and I really liked it a lot, I think. Let me attempt to talk about this game. It's bizarre and kind of a lot to take in all at once. What the fuck are you talking about? It's extremely overwhelming when you start out. Visually, this shit is a treat, but it's also got some issues that I'll get into in a second. We start the game out as a sentient AI that runs game software, I think. We're being talked down to by a coffee machine. He also tells us that we're on a rundown scientific research facility on some unknown planet called Lun Infinis. Now, immediately, this game's atmosphere gripped me pretty hard. It's pretty insanely good. I love how lonely it feels in this building, and I really dig the visuals a lot. I'm very, very impressed. It's really funny to me that this shit did not catch on at all, but the silly Chuck E. Cheese spooky game became the cultural touchstone cash cow. Who can possibly fathom the hive mind of the general public, I guess? I don't know, I kinda respect that this guy made actual fucking video games before whatever this is. I had no idea for whatever reason. I think I always assumed that this guy just made the streamer bait meme games and made $1 billion and fucked off. But nah, it seems like he was on that grind for a hot minute. But yeah, basically the pissed off coffee machine loans us his body to move around so we can interact with stuff in the building, including these 4 big robots called the derelicts. We go into computer simulations that they've all created to combat a virus that has somehow infected the entire facility's computer system, and this is where the majority of the gameplay takes place. I appreciate the visual detail that these 4 levels showcase, and I really do love how most of them look, but I really don't like how the background is presented in some of them, especially this Golden City level. The background and foreground clash really hard and it makes my eyes really tired to look at. The background should be a bit dimmer or blurrier or something to keep your eyes focused on the foreground, so your brain doesn't get overwhelmed. It's seriously distracting and hard to look at sometimes, but I appreciate the effort here more than anything, I think. Why am I playing this shit? Why did the Five Nights at Freddy's guy make this shit? What the actual fuck am I doing with my life? So basically the game is set up in day and night cycles. During the day, you're entering the simulations of the derelicts and doing 2D Metroidvania shit. Shooting enemies and platforming and gathering materials and exploring and interacting with NPCs that sell you upgrades and shit. And then during the nighttime, you leave the Lund Infinis and gather materials to gift to the robots so you can build your bonds with them. I feel like I'm playing fucking Harvest Moon now, Jesus. Yes, you gave me 75 pieces of chocolate cake. I guess I'll bear your fucking children and move in with you now. Oh, you brought me a shitty old alarm clock? I guess I'll bear your fucking children and move in with you. When you deepen your bond with the derelicts, they level up, and this affects how strong they are during the boss fights within the simulations. These are insane examples of sensory overload. Holy fuck. There's so much shit on my fucking screen. What the fuck does any of this mean? Why is the music so fucking good, too? I had to stop playing this shit because I got a headache, but I think I want to keep playing it. I'm so perplexed at this game, but overall I really like it, I think. The story is intriguing enough to keep my attention and wonder what the deal is with these weird ass robots. The music is all really good shit too, and the sound design in general is okay, but I hate the loud beep that you hear every time you pick up one of the little things that boost your stats. That's really grating. Okay. It's enough. I'm leaving it here. This shit is interesting, and if you're intrigued, try it out. I know this Scott Cawthon guy is kind of an asshole, and I can understand not wanting to play a game made by a guy that wants to police your body or thinks you're gonna go to hell or whatever, but I generally try to keep in mind that a lot of compelling art is made by less than ideal artists, and sometimes it's just made by straight up bad people. I obviously don't fuck with what this guy's about on a personal level, but I thought this game was interesting and worth bringing up. It's free and shit, so you don't have to support him if you play it. Also, I was fucking looking around online for info about this game's development, and apparently this was the original ending screen. This is so fucking funny. What? This is so jarring. Imagine you're playing fucking BioShock or something, and then after the credits, the game is like, this is for all the aborted fetuses out there. Holy fuck. You stupid asshole. What the fuck does this game about a jumping coffee machine have to do with fetuses? Anyway, play at your discretion, I guess. Oh my god, he made Christian media animations? I bet those are insane. What do they look like?
It is written by God, and God cannot lie. I hope we will be there soon. Whoa!
Okay. Closer to Home is, from what I can tell, the first game published by Is This a Mug? On their website, they have some pretty neat comics and artwork that they've made, mostly pretty abstract shit with really good composition and weird perspectives and stuff. I'm not an artist or an art critic or whatever, but I find works like these to be fascinating, stuff that breaks rules and convention. To some people's first glance, this stuff might come across as amateur or shitty looking, but I think there's a lot of work and practice that goes into making stuff like this. It kinda reminds me of Pilot Red Sun's animation sometimes. Closer to Home may come across this way at a glance with how sloppy a lot of the line work and the sprites and backgrounds are, and how weirdly shaped some shit is, and how wonky some of the animations look, but I'm willing to bet money that this was intentional. You don't animate certain things extremely well and then some things sloppily without intent, I'm pretty sure. But enough about how this shit looks on the surface. This game barely exists, nobody's played it or talked about it, so get your hipster credit now and play it. It's really fucking cool. You play as this guy for most of the game. You aren't given much information about him or the world around him at all, which I adore. You kinda have to piece together together everything yourself. There's elements of a dystopian cyberpunk future here. Your dad is dead, mom isn't around much, and kids at school think you're weird. The portrait art of the characters reminds me of Hotline Miami in that they're kind of disgusting and horrifying to look at. I think it adds to the generally unsettling tone and atmosphere on display here. The time I spent in this game, I kept feeling like something was wrong. I wouldn't call this a horror game at all, but there's this seriously uneasy atmosphere that I found myself wrapped up in. The music probably helps, it's nice, very atmospheric and abstract, kinda reminiscent of Yamaoka's stuff for Silent Hill, which is my shit. The music was all done by this guy, but to my knowledge there's nowhere to download or purchase the soundtrack of the game officially or anything. But yeah, the atmosphere is uneasy and compelling and cool and shit. I found the gameplay to be pretty fun. This shit is definitely inspired by a lot of games that I hold pretty dear to my heart. You enter a dream version of the world around you and traverse back and forth between the dream and reality, and you spend a lot of time wandering around looking at weird shit that barely makes any sense at first. Remind you of anything? The story is very well done in my opinion. I really appreciate games that give their plot space to breathe and nothing is ever explicitly told to you. You've got to fill in the blanks yourself. The line between the dream version of the world around you and the actual world around you blurs the further you get into the game, and there are multiple recurring characters that all have plot points and arcs and shit. Some of them are even playable. I was seriously impressed. The game's writing and sense of humor was generally nice. The few jokey references that the game has weren't too in your face, and the fact that you can fucking Dark Souls dodge roll everywhere is funny in and of itself. This shit was so unnecessary. You don't need this at all, but it's just fun to execute. It especially rules when you hit a wall and the guy goes ah or oof or whatever. See, I could have played the Roblox oof meme sound there, but I didn't. This video is serious business. You can get a skateboard and fucking ollie. Holy fuck. Yes! There's some abstract puzzles and really lengthy labyrinths to explore with some very weird imagery, like these pseudo 3D rendered white legs that chase you and try to kill you. I don't want to talk that much more about this game because again, it's new and barely anyone has bought it or played it yet, but I think it's seriously worth your support and attention. I highly recommend buying it if you have the means. So the last time I talked about a game by Niflis, it was Syra in the first Having Fun on the Computer video. I still think Syra is my personal favorite game of his, but like I mentioned in that video a year back, he's created a lot of really great games over the years that all deserve so much more attention than they've gotten. The Knit games are really fun, for example, but for now I want to bring attention to his latest game, Inglet. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing it correctly here. I checked the Steam forums and the publisher seemed to agree that this is how it's pronounced, so if I'm wrong, feel free to beat my ass in the comments. I don't care about this at all. Moving on. Inglet has very little in the way of narrative, like even less narrative than Niflis typically conveys in his games even. There are all these little organisms wiggling around in what looks like a cell. The cool little guy that we play as is hanging out with a bunch of these little bacteria looking guys, and a meteor comes and destroys the shit out of everything. I don't 100% understand the meaning behind it all. You complete levels and guide little bacteria buddies back out of the levels with you. None of this actually matters at all because this game is fun as fuck to play. Holy shit. The movement is so fluid and satisfying, really pleasing to my thumbs when I play this shit with a gamepad. You basically traverse through these bubbles. You can swim around in them and move from bubble to bubble in each level, with levels introducing new mechanics and ideas like the sick dash move and platforms to interact with in different ways. I respect that you're not really told anything. You're just left to figure it out for yourself and experiment. There's no penalty for missing a jump, so you just teleport back to whichever checkpoint you last made, which you have total control over. The game's difficulty is almost completely customizable to each player's preference. There are a few different difficulty settings in the menu, and you also completely pick where you want to set checkpoints and stuff. I'm not smart enough to talk about how good the game design of this shit is. Certain bouncy platforms sometimes trivialize the level design a little bit, since there's all this shit over here for me to interact with, but I can just say, no, I'm good, and skip it. But that doesn't bother me at all, because this is a joy to play. It makes you feel really satisfied and complete and cool when you pull off really tight fluid motions and grab the little triangles and shit. Like you're doing really well in Sonic, or you finally found out what the clitoris is. The presentation also impresses me. It's disorienting at times, like on the world map with all of these layers moving at different speeds and stuff, but it's disorienting in a fun way, not a way that hinders your experience at all. It's obvious and super simple, but changing the background color in some of the later levels to give the impression of it being nighttime is enough to give those levels a stronger ability to imprint on the player, and they stick out to me a lot. God damn, this game is really sick. Apparently Niflis mentioned being inspired by Echo the Dolphin and the art of Ellis Eriksson, who was the Swedish artist and sculptor that made really experimental abstract shit. Niflis specifically name drops his piece Pavan as being an inspiration, and it's pretty apparent when you look at it, yeah. This game makes me feel like a sperm. Do you guys remember being a sperm? I remember. I remember it, so you don't have to. The sound design is really well executed too, with a lot of great positive and negative feedback for the player to hear based on their performance. The music is pretty simplistic, some synth loops and sequences that add in notes and shit based on your actions on screen. I don't usually enjoy this type of thing more than if a game just had a regular soundtrack that you didn't interact with at all, but that's strictly a personal preference, and I think it's really fucking cool in this type of game anyway. Pick this shit up if you can, it's really cheap and a ton of fun. There's a free demo available as well if you just want to try it out. Niffless owns, and more people should keep their eyes on whatever his next move is. Dead Cedar is kind of a hard game to talk about. Its storyline is pretty minimal, with you being told everything from the playable character sporadically while you're making your way through it, like you're his fucking therapist or something. The plot of it is pretty interesting and well executed, but it's a tiny part of this game where almost every aspect of it is well executed. It's a survival horror game by Zeekers, who I'm pretty sure got their start making games in Roblox, if I'm not mistaken here. Jesus Christ, they're 20 years old? That's very impressive because this game is really something. You start the game out as this guy named Jesse Vincent, and he's gotta get his house in order because his father is apparently coming home to visit. Something about the way this guy moves, especially when you're holding the sprint button, just fucking kills me. It's really funny. This quirked up white boy really is busting it down sexual style over here. Stuff like the wacky running animation and the low-key presentation really does a great job at disarming you at first. But within a few minutes of walking towards your house, the area that most of the game takes place in, night falls and the whimsicality turns into unease. There's something seriously wrong with the picture here, but I'm not going to talk about it, and I'm purposefully going to try to only show vaguely uninteresting footage of this game to accompany my voice over here, because I really think that this game deserves to be experienced as blind as possible. It's an exceptionally crafted little piece. Zeekers really understands what makes early survival horror games so unsettling and good. It's a very, very composed game, if that's the right word. Every camera angle in every fucking room in this game is very deliberately placed to prioritize the cinematography. It's fucking cool as shit. The main meat of the game involves you looking for keys and items to make your way throughout this house, and while I hear some of you groaning in the background now, this is essentially what a bite-sized version of something like Silent Hill or Resident Evil would be. If you like either of those series, and I know you fucking do, because everyone with a brain knows that Silent Hill 3 is the best game ever made, then play this shit right now. Fuck the other games in this list, turn off my dumbass video and go play Dead Cedar right now. But yeah, while I was collecting keys and unlocking more parts of the house to explore, I developed this really organic kind of intimacy with the house and its layout. You end up learning where everything is without even thinking about it or focusing on it too much. And while I may not be the brightest LED light in the Twitch streamer's PC tower, I'm pretty sure this is objectively fantastic game design. During my second playthrough of this fucking game, I didn't have to look at the map once. After playing it one time, I am now completely familiar with the layout of this house in its entirety. This is my house. I live here now. I'm kind of shocked that this was released for free. It has levels of polish and cohesion and vision to it that are seriously impressive. And it scared the shit out of me too. I'm not usually one to jump during horror games, but this one got me multiple times. The presentation definitely adds to it. I experienced almost a complete 180 on my opinion of the way this game looks about a third into it. It went from being kind of whimsical and charming to me to being really unsettling and uncomfortable. The way lighting is used in this game is also really sick and adds to the fear factor as well. Again, I think Zeekers really understands what makes a horror game compelling, and they absolutely nailed it with this shit. The ending scene in particular really floored me. Just right past the aspect ratio. Right past it. Mysteries Under Lake Ophelia is a fishing game made by Bryce Booker. My only experience with this guy's previous work is his contributions to some of those haunted PS1 demo disc compilations on itch.io, and his commercial game Fatum Betula. Fatum Betula is a first-person exploration game where you wander around a few small areas and trigger some events so you can see all of the different endings that it has. It's not exactly a game that you're going to want to play more than once, and it's super short, but it was enough to make me excited to check out anything that the guy put out in the future. Their penchant for PS1 era low poly graphics and the weird surreal visuals kept me interested through Fatum Betula, and I enjoyed collecting all of the endings. And Booker's deadpan sense of humor is charming to me. Mysteries Under Lake Ophelia is a much meatier game than Fatum Betula with more stuff to do, even if conceptually it seems a lot simpler. Now I'll be upfront, I'm not an expert on fishing games or anything. I've never really gotten into them. I like the Big the Cat sections in Sonic Adventure and shit. I enjoy fishing minigames and JRPGs. I think Yoko Taro is correct on this one, but I've never played Sega Bass Fishing or or whatever. I guess they put fishing in Shenmue 3, that's pretty cool. Shenmue 1 and 2 were pretty cozy games that I associate with this time of year, but I haven't played 3 yet. I know it's a bit divisive. But yeah, getting back on track here, this game's got a pretty simple scenario. You're playing as this kid while you're on a camping trip near Lake Ophelia, I guess. When the game starts, you can immediately run around and see there's a few places to go fishing and lots of different fish to catch. The visuals are nice, again, reminiscent of the PS1 with the low polygon count, and I always appreciate seeing this type of thing executed well. A lot of indie devs attempt the PS1 low poly thing to varying degrees of success, but I think Booker really nails it. The main character's face is just a texture, and they make a lot of different facial expressions and stuff. It's really endearing to me. I love the environment and colors and models for the fish themselves. Everything is just really appealing and comfy, and it makes me want to hang out here in this game. After a while, if you make your way back to your tent, you find a guy hanging out, and he offers to buy the fish that you catch and sell you new equipment, like lures that go deeper into the water and rods that have more distance. I really enjoyed catching lots of different fish and saving up for better equipment so I could progress further into the game. The story is pretty minimal, and your mileage may vary depending on how much you enjoy games that are a little aimless and open-ended like this, but I saw the ending and still continued playing for a while after just because I found it to be really relaxing and chill, and I wanted to catch the rest of the fish to complete my little fish encyclopedia. I really loved just hanging out and playing this shit while watching stuff on my other monitor. There's this cave on the other side of the lake that features some pretty interesting fish. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, kid, don't put the piranha in your pants. Is he just putting all of the fish he catches in his pocket? This kid probably smells amazing. The music and overall ambiance is fantastic. The soundtrack is really sparse and quiet and subdued, but it accentuates the relaxed feeling of just hanging out and catching fish. Mysteries of Lake Ophelia has touches of horror elements to it, but nothing really in your face. It has a slightly uneasy atmosphere. You'll feel pretty alone out here after a few hours, and the guy sitting at the campsite only has a few lines of dialogue that he cycles through, and he purely exists as the in-game shopkeeper. So it really hits after a while that you're the only person out here, and it feels kind of eerie. It also doesn't make much sense that you can catch fucking anglerfish and tuna and scallops and swordfish all in the same area. Like this lake has some kind of mystical properties to it, causing unnatural phenomena or something. I know Booker enjoys making unsettling shit, and while this game does have the occasional creepy element, the sheer comfiness really overpowers everything else, at least for me. I really enjoy Mysteries of Lake Ophelia, and I hope one day Booker puts out a bigger, more long-form game project, with a more fleshed out narrative and more stuff to do and shit. They're crazy talented, and I loved playing this. And you know what? I think I'm gonna try playing more fishing games soon. I feel like this unlocked something in my brain. Like if somebody out there made a game that was like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater mixed with a fishing game, it would be the best shit I ever played. Aspiring game devs, if you're watching this, please make Tony Hawk's Pro Bass Fishing. I'll buy 10 fucking copies. This game is evil, and it was created by the devil himself specifically to kill me. Knight's Try is conceptually one of the simplest games ever if you look at it on paper. You play as a knight who can only move and jump. No attacks, no special moves, nothing. Just you trying to get to the end. Despite how simple this is on paper, this is the game that I spent the most time with during the production of this video, and I think I have the most things to say about it. You start this shit out in this empty hub world outside of a castle with no music, just the sound of birds and signs to read to give you instructions on what to do. Pretty similar to a certain game every person on the planet has played and backwards long jumped through already. I mean, just using your eyes to look at this shit, it's pretty obvious that this game's visual style was inspired by the N64 era. Specifically Mario 64. The colors and textures and models of everything remind me of that game way more than the stuff Rare released on the console. There's no stupid fucking bird that screams and fucking poops. And the music like da 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 da. God, speaking of the fucking music, this game's soundtrack is made up entirely of Godard's rendition of Clair de Lune, and I'm so tired of hearing this fucking song in every movie and trailer and fucking video essay online. The magic is gone. This song means nothing to me anymore. But thankfully the game's soundtrack is actually customizable, and I replaced it with a MIDI file of Limp Bizkit's Nookie. But I got really tired of that really fast, so I loaded up the game's MIDI folder with a bunch of files of piano conversions of Kirby music and Donkey Kong music and shit, and Massive Attack's Teardrop, because that song kicks ass. Anyway, once you make your way inside the castle, there's a portal to jump into, and you're let into the world of the game. The land of Try, huh? Alright, cute, whatever, I get it. Nights try, like nice try, like try again. Like this is one of those hardcore platformers. Oh boy, I can't wait to get an inguinal hernia from how hard and frustrating this video game is. I'm not really a guy that gets mad a lot, and video games especially don't really stress me out, even hard ones. I like Monkey Ball.
Video games stress me out. When I like games, I like them. I could name about 3. I remember playing, the Monkey Ball games.
I like Dark Souls and Mega Man and shit. I'm a big boy, but this game made me its bitch so hard. There are 3 difficulties here: Knight, Archknight, and Squire. Knight is the regular difficulty. You just play the game and you hit checkpoints through your playthrough that you can use indefinitely. These are great and a huge help, but you've still got to beat the whole game in one sitting. If you quit, you lose your progress and start all the way at the beginning. Now by the time I was finished playing this game for this video, fucking 20 hours in or whatever, I was able to get through its entirety in like 20 minutes. But starting out? Jesus, no, this was going to be something that took practice and dedication to get good at. So I went with Squire difficulty. This one basically saves your checkpoints as places you can warp to and start from every time you play the game. So I slowly made my way through this game over the course of a few weeks by playing from whichever section I was stuck on. There's 8 sections in total and they're all fucking evil in their own ways. The world is very connected and seamless, there's no level transitions or anything. The whole game is basically just one level, but it's a massive world to run through spanning lots of different themed areas. There's a dungeon, there's a lava area, there's Indiana Jones rock dodging bullshit, but it all takes place in what I can only describe as Bowser in the Sky but moodier. I started out at the beginning, and after getting used to how the knight feels to control, which I honestly found to be insanely fun despite how tiny his moveset is, I pressed on for the first checkpoint. I think I hit that one on the first day. This first area introduces you to some mechanics like traps and spikes, and some precise platforming that may take some time to get used to. It took me a while to get a grip on this shit, but I really enjoyed the process. The game doesn't tell you anything about what shit you're gonna run into, you've just gotta figure it out for yourself through trial and error. I didn't know if the rotating scythes here would kill me if I touched the wooden part or not. I had to fuck around and find out for myself, just to name one example. Oh fuck yes, there's a cat up here, oh my god, look at his face. Or lack of face. He's awesome. The first checkpoint wasn't that hard to hit. Again, I think I got it on my first day, but the second section amps things up pretty hard with these boulders mixed in with the instantly falling blade traps that you have to time really well, because if the boulders hit the blade, then they stall and oftentimes block the way forward until you can't do anything other than die. Dying isn't a big deal though. You hit the respawn button and you're immediately back at the last checkpoint you hit. Simple shit. After making my way through this insanely precise platforming shit and learning how these moving platforms work, I hit the third section. This is the first section that introduced me to some really frustrating obstacles that I felt like were kind of out of my control at first, with these horrible cannonballs that explode on impact and have huge hitboxes. This is where my first real challenge was, but I still had a decent amount of control over the cannonballs. I just had to painstakingly make my way through here while paying attention to where they were gonna land, and just pray that none of them hit me. It's a bit frustrating, but at this point I was all in. I wanted to see this shit through to the end. This game made me feel like a little kid again. It made me feel utterly helpless, and I wanted to prove, if anything, to myself that I could beat it. This became a bit of an obsession, and I found myself playing it every single day if I had time. It was addicting in the way that video games felt when I was young. Maybe the simplicity of it and the visual style was just too much like playing Mario 64 as a kid. I don't know. I'm not here to jerk off the cock of nostalgia. I'm here to beat Nights Try. God, that's a line I wrote and read out loud. I'm not here to jerk off. So I made my way through this section and the next after a lot of time and dedication, and I was greeted with this huge empty cathedral area before the next checkpoint, and I felt so fucking tense coming through here. I was fully expecting the game to hit me with one of those fucking blade traps or something. I had been conditioned to be so wary of seemingly safe spaces during my time with this fucking game, but nothing ended up happening. This place is safe. I walked through this entire section to hit the next checkpoint totally fine. I kind of love how afraid this game made me feel. It's a powerful thing to make the player feel tense about something as simple as walking into a room in a non-horror game. I cringed in tension more playing this shit than I ever have playing something like Dead Space or Resident Evil. The next section takes place in this dungeon under the big room we were just in, where you've got to fall for a really long time dodging these spinning blades. It's a super exciting little intro to the next course, and it's a fun set piece to fall through for a really long time. Really puts into perspective how huge the game world feels. The dungeon is the worst though, with these little skeleton enemies that move so fast fast and chase you and kill you if they breathe on you too hard. There's all this fucking shit up here that the game wants you to interact with to progress through this part, but you can make your way past here just by running and jumping if you're careful and a little bit lucky. I'm sure that this isn't the intended way to play the game, but I appreciate the fact that they allow you to do this. The game then introduces this laser mechanic here, with this button that lets you kill these horrible little fucks, and then we're on to the next section with lasers that are trying to kill you now. I love any area in a game that has checkerboard floors. I'm a sucker for it. My favorite level in Klonoa 2 is the Maze of Memories, and I really like Checker Knights and Kirby Air Ride and stuff. You know, maybe I'm making something out of nothing, or maybe I have Stockholm Syndrome from spending so much time with this fucking game, but I grew to really love the little character we're playing as here. I like the Onion Knight guy in Dark Souls, so obviously I like this little guy's visual design, but I found it weirdly kind of compelling that he doesn't have a voice or face or anything. He just puts himself through this horrible obstacle course from hell just because he wants to try it. He's a charming little fella. They should put him in Smash Bros. I think my fucking brain is leaking out of my ears. The final sections of the game are nuts. They really test your skill and mastery of the mechanics that you've spent this long with, and it's a really organic kind of experience. You are going to suck ass at this when you start, and then you're gonna get really good at it. You're gonna make this game your bitch, like fucking John Romero. I got to the end of Squire mode, and then the game hit me with a ho 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 whoopsie. You didn't really beat the game, just easy mode, so fucking tough titty. Idiot. I still took the time to hit the final checkpoint of the game and fly around the game's world, enjoying the reward, but I still felt like I didn't really deserve it. Didn't really earn it because I didn't do it all in one go. So I immediately was like, alright, I'll try again. Beating the entire game in one sitting is another feat in and of itself. It might not seem that insane theoretically because you've already beaten the entirety of it, and the game isn't that huge, honestly. In your head, you can map this shit out and think, yeah, it'll probably take me an hour, but in execution this ends up being different. It's a lot easier said than done, and it took me almost 4 fucking hours to beat this game in one sitting for the first time. And then when I did this really cool epic thing next, right? Where I assumed that since I was flying around that I had beaten the game, and I could warp back to the castle hub and collect my reward and shit. But I got back and realized I didn't finish the game. I had to look this shit up in the Steam community, but what the game wants you to do is fucking fly all the way back to the beginning area and fly through these fireworks that look like your face. So what does that mean? I wasted 4 hours of my life? I have to beat this shit again? Yes, you fucking stupid. At this point I was making it through the first 4 sections of the game in my sleep, but the dungeon section was killing me. I spent so many hours getting fucking spit roasted by skeletons, and it started to really hit me how stupid this was. I beat this game already. I have other shit that I want to talk about for this video. I should move on. There's no shame in just saying that I beat it. I got to the end, I put in the time. I should have just moved on and gotten to work writing about these other games that I think are cool and worth people's attention. I want to talk about Hylix. Am I gonna get to talk about Hylix? That section about Haru Toshura was kinda pitiful, wasn't it? You didn't talk about the game enough. Nobody's gonna give a shit. You say you kept it brief and vague for spoiler reasons because it's a relatively unknown game, but you're really just a lazy fuck, aren't you? You did this with Dead Cedar too. Thinking critically and in-depth about the things you're writing about is too fucking hard, isn't it? And you're just too tired all the time. You have so much shit you need to be doing, and now that there's an audience watching you for the first time in your life, you're gonna crumble under the pressure and fuck off of the internet, aren't you? I needed to take a walk, so I did. Pretty late in the afternoon after the sun had already gone down. It's fucking cold in the Pacific Northwest in the winter. I grew up in an area that was pretty tropical, so the winters up here really hit me pretty hard. I'm not that used to snow and everything, but I do enjoy it a lot. I like going outside and feeling my fingers getting numb and shit, seeing my breath in front of me. All that miserable, terrible winter shit really makes me feel alive. Something about the temperature dropping and the days getting shorter puts me in a weird headspace, but I kinda like it. I think I feel more stressed out about staying productive and more concerned and fatigued about wasted time because the sun is up for a smaller amount of time, but I think it keeps me on my toes. I don't know. I'm not fucking Tim Rogers. I'm not here to tell you about my fucking life, and I am not nearly interesting enough to do shit like this. I can be honest and authentic without forcing it down everyone's throats in a stupid, contrived skit like this. This fucking sucks ass. This is stupid. I should have just made another health tips video if I wanted to be all cute and clever and up my own ass like every other fucker on this website. Fuck. That's not a bad idea, actually.
Health tips part 2. You eat this. If you want to be healthy. Okay. Yeah. This is good for you. This is good for you.
I ended up beating night mode. I finished the shit in one sitting, again, and I got my little fucking jewel on the pedestal next to my death counter saying that I beat the game. Finally, I can fucking move on with my life, except for one small, tiny, baby thing. There's another difficulty, and a little pedestal to the left that's painfully empty. Arch Night Mode makes you beat the game in one sitting like Night Mode, but with another caveat. You can only use checkpoints 3 times each before they expire. This means you get 3 tries in every section of the game. 3 tries to get past the fucking cannonballs, 3 tries to get past the skeletons, 3 times to get past this huge asshole with his machine gun. Why do you have a machine gun? So it's pretty intense. You know? It took me another week of playing this game over and over again, but I did it. I got through the entire fucking game in like 20 minutes. I made it my bitch. Like John Romero. This is like whatever the opposite of 9/11 is, but for me personally. This is my reverse 9/11. Game of the year 2022. Holy fucking shit. I adore this game. I cherish this shit now. I spent so much time thinking about this game when I wasn't playing it, and it really got inside of my head and reminded me of what it's like to feel rewarded just by completing something yourself. Also, Bryce fucking Booker helped program this shit, which is hilarious comparing my time with Knight's Try to Lake-Ophelia. It's almost like polar opposites. I wanted to rip my eyes out of my fucking skull and eat them when I realized that I had to do night mode again in this game. But with Lake-Ophelia, it was really just an endearing, calm experience that helped me relax. I fucking love video games for being able to put me in such vastly different headspaces and moods, all while being fun and engaging for my shitty brain full of cobwebs and mold. Modus Interactive, thank you for making this game. Please keep making shit. They're apparently working on a roguelike mech combat game or something. I see a green-haired anime up there. That's a green-haired anime. We got a green-haired anime alert. Somebody call the fucking... Please play Knight's Try. It's absolutely fantastic at what it does, and completing it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my year. Not everybody has the skill set or desire to embark on a creative journey like writing a novel, or making a game, or recording an album, or making a movie, or whatever. But I think people instinctively love to feel rewarded for overcoming difficulty, and this game is a perfect little simulator for how good it feels to finish something. And on that note, I'm calling it for this video. Good night. Whatever. Okay.